nationalism, bureaucracy. It's trivial. Oh, hello. How are you doing on this fine afternoon that I'm doing my project during? I think it's time we stepped away from this book. And I brought you in to the history of my grandparents. Step along for the ride. Hello, hopefully this audio run works. It keeps not working. Anyways, okay, so to the left, we have my grandpa, Bill Brewer, and he was born in 1938, and there's my grandma, Anna Brewer, and she was born in 1936. Here's a picture of me and them. They were both born during the final stages of the Depression, but they say that the Depression had a little effect on them. This is my grandma's first television, or something. Not the exact one, you know what I mean. She got it when she was in 8th grade. It looked pretty much like this, and now today, this is what their TV looks like. So if you make a comparison of how things change over time, you go from this to this. And in 8th grade, I got my first cell phone. But when my grandma was a kid, they had these phones, only home phones, and the phone numbers were 4 digits as opposed to 7 digits. Here's my grandpa's first car, which he bought for $75. As you can see here, $75. He had the car for 2 years, which he bought with his own money, and then he sold it for $125 2 years later. That, I think, Benjamin Franklin called making a profit. And basically, if my grandpa filled up his car today, he pays as much as he paid for his first car, which is pretty ridiculous. And my grandpa also claims that he drove himself to his license test, which is ironic. Okay, and here's my grandpa's first car, 1940 Ford, compared to his new car, his Chrysler 300C. So World War II was going on right when my grandparents were growing up, and my grandma had 3 of her uncles go into the military to serve her country. 2 joined the Army, and 1 was a captain in the Navy. This captain in the Navy was ironically known to her as Uncle Sam. One of the other uncles got hurt in combat and received a Purple Heart for bravery during combat. The thing that my grandma remembers most about the war is the celebrations that went on after, and this is a very iconic picture of a soldier celebrating with his girlfriend or wife over the ending of World War II. The ending of World War II, however, brought about a bunch of good things in the 1950s because the economy was really good and the times were really happy. Unlike today. And my grandma basically said that the 1950s were a very peaceful time in America. And I think you can tell a lot about a time period by the music and the culture of the time. So I'm going to play some music tracks so you can see how the times were reflected in the culture. Starting with some Elvis. Some Chuck Berry. and some Bill Haley.
Elvis Presley. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. Well, you ain't never gonna live it, and you ain't no friend of mine.
So the music reflects the happiness of the time period. Anyways, my grandparents got married when they were around 18, and then in 1965 they moved to California. From Ohio. They were from Ohio.
Step.
And then they started a family, and there comes me. And when I asked my grandma two things that she remembered from the time from growing up, she said segregation and the Kent State Massacre. So segregation, as shown here in the KKK, was pretty bad before the Civil Rights Movement.
1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock. 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, rock.
And then she also noted that the Civil Rights Movement started because people had the idea that segregation needed to stop, like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and then my grandpa said that they were successful because they were persistent and they never gave up. And then the other thing that stuck really close to my grandparents was the Kent State Massacre, because that's both where they went to college. Kent State is a college in Ohio, and on May 4th, 1970, some students were protesting the Vietnam War, which had just begun, and the Ohio State National Guard shot and killed 4 people in the crowd, and they also wounded 9 people. And this massacre resulted in a lot of other protests across America because it shows brutality of the National Guard. And it hit close to home with my grandparents because that's where they both went to college. And then another thing my grandma noted was the launching of Sputnik and the moon landing, which can be summarized as the space race between the Soviet Union and the United States of America during the Cold War, where the United States and the Soviet Union were competing for democracy versus communism. And to be corny, you could say that the rocket fuel to the moon was pure nationalism. So, in conclusion, basically today my grandparents live in Glendale, and they live at a nice house right on top of Oakmont Country Club. And my grandma likes to substitute teach, and my grandpa likes to golf whenever he can, and they will celebrate their 52nd wedding anniversary this summer. Thank you, and have a good day.